I want to talk about Supergirl 2026, and more specifically, my rewrites for it. Okay, so first of all, the effort and skill that goes into making anything, including something as divisive as this movie, is still impressive. And I'm no screenwriter. I have no multi-million-dollar movie under my belt. I just have a silly little YouTube channel and an active imagination. So credit where credit is due. Well, this movie clearly started off poorly. It is still art, and it was made with genuine effort. And I know there are still people who loved it. So what do I know? If you loved it already, that's great. This video might not be for you, though you are more than welcome to join in on the fun exercise of what ifs and really just come see what I think would have been cool. So with that in mind, let's objectively fix it. Oh, and for those of you who haven't seen it, I will spoil aspects of it willy-nilly, so if you haven't watched it yet and don't want things spoiled, here's your warning. So obviously Supergirl is an adaptation. It's based on the comic Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King, and perhaps the right way to rewrite it would simply be more accurate to the comic. But I haven't read it. I'm just aware that the movie deviates quite a lot from it. So my take is based on rewriting the elements found in the movie alone. And so, while some things I add or parts I critique might happen to match up to the comic, I really don't know if it will or won't, but it's not what I'm trying to do, and I don't want to read the comic before doing this video because I want my thoughts to be exactly that, my thoughts. And I have a feeling I'll just end up suggesting most of what happens in the Woman of Tomorrow comic if I were to read it, because from what I hear, it's pretty remarkable. So with that out of the way, here are my thoughts on rewriting the Supergirl 2026 movie and how I think it could have been as remarkable as the comic. So the very first point I want to make, because it's permeated throughout the whole movie, used as a crutch to combine world building and a reason Kara doesn't just end the movie 5 minutes in, is the constant powering up and powering down that plagues Kara's journey. Now, don't get me wrong, it is smart. Combining narrative beats with lore and world building is a great idea and indicative of a seemingly quality writer, but having her be powered up and then depowered for different times for different ways throughout the movie makes each consecutive time feel less and less impactful and becomes predictable, giving her kryptonite poisoning for a couple of minutes immediately after having her almost die due to a green sun before the yellow sun revitalizes her again is underwhelming and removes tension. It becomes rote, and most of the time doesn't even lead to anything earned. She just gets yellow sun again and she's past the problem. There is a sense of it building the greater universe and the lore of Kryptonians, and there is something to say for doing that, but it hurts the overall flow and pacing of this movie, and I don't think hurting the movie to help expand the lore is ever worth it. Fit what makes sense into the story, try to get more lore in there, but never compromise on the story you sold to people to get them here, to set up something to help sell a future installment. But if you've seen the movie, you almost certainly agree with this point. I haven't heard anyone defend it. So, what to change? How will I rewrite it? Well, let's jump back a bit and go deeper on Kara. When we first lay eyes on her, it's in the bar, drunk. The cold opening of her partying and recharging off the yellow sun is cute and fun, but it comes across as kinda a happy existence, which undermines the fact that this should be her lowest point. It's also a little too casual with showing off her recharging from the yellow sun, which we're gonna pay off differently. So we first see Kara in the bar that Ruthie enters, and we see that Kara clearly still has some degree of power. She can't fly or likely shoot lasers from her eyes, but she clearly has some power left in her. Kicking a big alien off his steed seems hard for an average drunk human, so it's reasonable. Kryptonians are enhanced by solar radiation from a yellow sun, and while they're not around a yellow sun, it slowly dissipates, and a red sun in most stories quickens that effect. But in many cases, including this one, it's not an immediate thing, so here she is on a planet with a red sun. So let's say she's somewhere around 20% solar reserves, and this looks like exactly what we get at the start of the movie. In another week of drinking and partying, it'll be gone. but right now, she's got just enough to jump pretty high, take a hit, and hit hard herself. Once Ruthie shows up, we get a similar interaction, with Kara getting the sword back for her, showing off that degree of power she still has, and Ruthie seeing the value in Kara. Moving on to the inciting incident, keep it the same, Crypto gets poisoned, but no slow motion close-up. Just have it play out unceremoniously in a long shot at normal speed. It'll be a lot more devastating due to its sudden, untelegraphed violence. Keep that long shot as the ship takes off and Kara runs towards the whimpering Crypto. Afterwards, Kara decides to go help and get the antidote. Except this time there's no convenient yellow sun one short bus trip away. Which also takes care of the query people have with why not just bring Crypto on that short trip to the yellow sun. And I know, yes, moving him accelerates it, and Kryptonians aren't immune to it under the effects of a yellow sun, but both those things suck. Accelerating a 3-day poison versus super healing and invulnerability should be a no-brainer, and when villains eventually scour the universe looking for ways to fight Clark and Kara, and they never go find this poison that's significantly more harmful than kryptonite, it's going to be frustrating. So instead, a yellow sun is simply just too far to do any good for Crypto, and so Kara sets off for the antidote, and to help Ruthie. Her initial avoidance of helping Ruthie leads to nothing, so it just comes across as uncaring for someone she relates to so much, which could be interesting if developed, but feels like a very different direction. So yeah, let's just have her skip the 5 minutes where she says no to her, and we end up right there on the bus anyway. The space deck pirates still attack, and still run into more than they bargained for when Kara still has enough to easily handle them, even if she fumbles through the last of her hangover. But more fighting and less drinking comes with clarity, more room for feeling those feelings she's running from. She doesn't hit a power up, not yet, so there's no high to distract her from those feelings flooding in. She's just low on solar radiation and sobering up, realizing the situation for what it is. A girl who's lost everything and scared of what life is now, obsessed with the one thing that she can focus on, complete and utter commitment to her sorrow. Kara sees in Ruthie the same struggle she went through upon her world's destruction, but directed through the lens of vengeance, which is different to Kara's. With her, we have total despair that led her here, and after dealing with the tech pirates, we get our first flashback of her arriving on Earth for the first time, being welcomed by Clark and his big dumb smile. I love seeing Superman act all goofy, but for this scene, we don't go all silly. He can be doing the shtick where he keeps talking to her while she doesn't understand, but we slowly fade his dialogue away as we go introspective on Kara spiraling inwards. Then we cut to Clark smiling and showing her his apartment, Kara looking out the window at all the humans, listening to Earth music to shut out the screams. Much like they do in the actual movie, just emphasize it a little bit more, like cuddling up with Crypto depressed, laid up in bed, cocooned in blankets, watching old TV shows. This could be where she gets her love of older technology, where she learns human memes and mannerisms that she uses throughout the rest of the movie, and relates to characters captured in time. But as we know, it's not enough to give her her home. Now let's jump to Bilkis, the planet with the brides. Having Kara trust strangers who are off in the corner whispering and giving odd looks, and then drinking whatever they put in front of her, right after telling Ruthie that she sees the truth in people just so she can be powered down again, is a Clark move. Instead, if she's still under the same solar reserves she had since the beginning, all this fighting and traveling she's done so far certainly will not have re-energized her, so maybe on Bilkis she arrives at something like 10 to 15% of her reserves, and to be clear, these percentages are not stated anywhere. We show it through her capabilities. So she's already further weakened. No need to artificially weaken her again. But the two parents do sell Kara and Ruthie out, leading to the same outcome of Krem and co arriving and fighting throughout the house, expanding into a larger skirmish including Lobo when he shows back up. Though this time, he will get his bounty on Bilkis. But for Kara, her fighting has taken a serious toll. We see her become more and more desperate as she fights with everything she has to save the girls. This goes well for a while. She's still capable even at her sun-deprived state, and most of the goons can be handled fairly easily, especially as she takes up arms in the form of Ruthie's sword. But we have multiple extended segments of her fighting Krem throughout the streets and alleyways, where she ends up using more and more of her solar reserves. And this is where we crank him up a notch, because Krem of the Yellow Hills, by many accounts, is a bad villain. I think he had potential. He's somewhat quirky, clearly evil as hell, and has a penchant for the creepy factor, trying to cause a sizable amount of fear in his victims before doling out whatever violence he had planned or not planned. So, potential and an opportunity, I think, was missed. I have no idea what the greater DCU has planned for everything, how far along certain comic storylines will be once introduced, but because of what we do know, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect a decent amount of Lantern lore. We already have Guy Gardner, an older Guy Gardner. Lanterns is the next showing in the DCU, so clearly a lot is supposed to already be established. So providing it doesn't mess with future plans, why don't we bring a slither of the idea of lanterns into this movie? Krem of the Yellow Hills, who relishes in driving fear into his enemies, why not give him a weapon? One he doesn't fully understand, but tiny and powerful all the same, that seemingly sought him out, capable, even wielded poorly, at overwhelming a weakened Kryptonian. Krem of the Yellow Ring, not a full-fledged Yellow Lantern, but a Proto-Lantern. Full control over constructs, no, but glimpses here and there. Reinforced attacks, shadows dancing around him, something working in tandem like an extension of his own presence as he stalks Kara on Bilkis, and the color yellow spilling out of him at his ultimate demise, so at least something resembling blood can be drawn from that wound. So yes, notched up, this is Krem's real chance to shine. As Kara works her way through the goons, more visceral and grounded, harder won than it was shown in the real movie, as she fights, like an oppressive force, Krem appears, battering her around, crashing her through walls before she's up and saving another girl. Every effort she makes, a lurking shadow behind, threatening to end her heroism. Play up the yellows in the scene, or the street lights yellow. Lots of Krem silhouetted by the yellow. This being the first time the movie has had such vivid color. Up until now, it's all been muted. And as she fights, saving children from the clutches of the goons and the oppression of Krem bearing down on her, she weakens. Every direct interaction with Krem, a clear loss. Eventually, Krem standing out in the town square, Ruthie grabbed by her scruff. Kara emerges from the other side of the town square, tired, bloody, arm limp, coat tattered, and she stands across from him, a human. Broken and battered, fully committed, knowing she's no match. It doesn't matter, she needs to fight. Even if it's just to give the girls, to give Ruthie 5 more seconds of freedom. She takes a stand and walks to him. He effortlessly beats her down and takes this moment to tell Kara that she will remain as a message to all those who challenged his decree. She spits in his face or talks back at him. Then he says something to the effect of, "A message does not need to walk," and snaps her leg by stomping on it. And then a goon comes out of the ship with Kara's Supergirl suit. Krem grabs it and inspects it, mocking her with it, and then throws it at her. Broken and beaten in every way, Kara lays defeated at Krem's feet as he turns and casually walks into his ship with Ruthie, and they take off. The scene of the town, bleak, dark and grey, the yellow lighting no longer prominent. Instead, all colour is gone. It's muted again. A crowd assembles in the square and surrounds Kara. She weakly speaks "Yellow Sun." None in the crowd understand the intent, and then Lobo pushes through the crowd to stand over her. Head in a tilt, a weird look on his face, then speaks, "Easy fam," and squats down, blowing smoke into her face. He says, "The main man doesn't do handouts, and I've already got what brought me here," lifting up the head of his bounty. "So, Ditz from Metropolis, USA, what can you offer the main man?" Without hearing what it is, he laughs, calling her a Kizzy Femme again, and picks her up from her waistband, then walks away with her, telling her to watch her head as she bangs it on a short brick wall. The actual offer can be hashed out in a future installment, but I would have it be something like a challenge to outdrink him, a VIP pass to see some space dolphins, or a tour of Clark's Fortress of Solitude, or hell, something as simple as "it'll be fun" would probably do. Cutting away to Krem and Ruthie for some interaction therein, including traveling to some safe ground planet for Krem and his crew, where we get a good look at the environment as they fly in and arrive at some base. Lots of flora and fauna, but not very colourful. Again, muted, despite how lush and expressive it looks, though this is not something noted or focused on. It's just there in the background. Clear if you're looking at it. Next we see Kara, she's in space with Lobo, wearing the same suit Ruthie had earlier. As Lobo passes by a planet coming into view of a dim yellow sun, almost white or grayscale, he pauses and lets Kara's tired body float up into line of sight of the sun. We get something very similar to the bus scene in the actual movie, where the light of the sun revitalizes her. Except This is the first time we see it in the movie. After all the hell she's gone through, the uphill battle she's fought, taking a stand that she could not win as essentially a human, taxed, tired, broken after fighting non-stop, never giving up when she had nothing left to give, she finally gets the power up we've been waiting for. As her cells are recharged by the dim yellow sun, its hue shifts. Not so dim, not so grayscale. Its yellow color becomes unmistakable and intensifies. Stars barely visible prior bloom into existence. Color erupts across the cosmos. As Kara removes her helmet and the rest of the suit disappears, we see she's in her Supergirl suit. Kara turns to Lobo, gives him a look. He points in a direction and they both smile. Then she turns, face stern, and flies off in a smear across space. Cutting back to Krem and Ruthie, there's some nonsense celebration going on. The girls are all in some large container somewhere. Environment still dull and grey, then crackling sound vibrates the atmosphere. A sudden impact centered in the celebration, bright reds and blues, with a glorious impact frame. Her arrival will be spectacular. And as the dust settles from her cratering entrance, we see the dull grey environment come to life in vibrant colours reminiscent of the stunning verdant environments in the comic. I haven't read it, but I've seen the art. Bilquis Evely and Matt Lopez did well. But now, finally energized, Kara sees the world through the enhanced lens of a powered Kryptonian. And after all the dusty brown, uninspired colors up until this point, once Kara is touched by the sun, the movie never relinquishes the radiant colors. With this, we now get the full ultimate combat. A fight she could never win, now one she can breeze through. In my telling, Kryptonians aren't so well known that villains will have pre-prepared kryptonite weaponry, or lay traps by utilizing a green sun. I figure Lobo knows. He gets around, but I can't justify the logic of Kryptonians and Krypton being so well known. How did it happen? When did it happen? If it were before the fall of Krypton, were they spacefaring and interacted with other races? If so, why aren't there more Kryptonians out and about in space? Why did Kara's parents need the specific blueprints that Jor-El made for Clark? Why, if they had the choice between being gods on other planets or dying with their planet, did they ever choose the latter? If they weren't all up in everybody's space before the fall, how did all this information come from 3, maybe 4 years of Superman announcing himself on Earth? To the point where Krypton is known far and wide across the galaxy, and how to exploit their people is seemingly common knowledge. It's just confusing without any explanation. Maybe the Lantern Corps has something to do with it. But to save this confusion until it's time to discuss the importance of the Corps, reducing the amount of moments creating these questions seems right, I think. So now, her fight is unabated, nothing dragging her down so the fight can be fairer. She obliterates the goons, their attacks landing ineffectual on her, as she doesn't even need to defend herself. Krem, still capable of dishing out force, but ultimately pales in comparison to Kara, a stark contrast to the progress of confrontations up until this point. So a lot of the ending can play out the same as it did in the real movie, except with a lot of vibrant color and lush life. After she shakes off the kryptonite poisoning, she kicks butt. No one can stop her, leading to the same ending and demise of Krem. But again, this time yellow spilling out of him because I refuse to do a stab like that and not put something on the blade. So there you go. That's my thoughts, my rewrites on what I would have liked to see. My total, unprofessional, and unsolicited rewrites. What do you think? Is it better than the actual movie? Is it worse? It's probably worse. I wonder how many loopholes I just created. Oh well. Now, would these ideas have gotten more people excited? Or was it always doomed from the start for unrelated reasons? Let me know what you think about Supergirl 2026. What would you change? What worked? What didn't work? Should I be put in charge of the next DCU movie? All this to come. But until then, and as always, thank you so very much for watching. Stay kind to one another, and I will see you in the next one.